Have you been thinking about moving your business to a brick and mortar location? Maybe you've been running your business out of your home and you've decided that it's time for you to get an office space. Or maybe you've been doing a bakery or some other type of business, like an Amazon-based business or some kind of product-based business, and you're like, man, I really need to have a brick and mortar business. Whatever the case may be, you might find that you want to go out and you want to get some space, whether it's office space or a brick and mortar in which you can sell stuff out. Either way, you need to ask yourself this one very important question. Can you afford it? Hey, badass business owners, my name is Tammy, and I'm here to help you grow your business, but more importantly, grow those profits. And what we like to do here on this channel is we want to talk about running your business, but in a way that really says, hey, does this add to the bottom line? Does this help me make money? Does it grow my sales? But at the same time, are we growing smart sales? Now, usually the reason that we want a brick and mortar is because we think, oh my God, I'm going to blow up my business if I just have a brick and mortar. I'm going to make so much more money if I just have a brick and mortar. Or my house is so small, I just need more space. I need to be able to do it. But here's the thing. I can't tell you how many people who want a brick and mortar have no business having a brick and mortar. But some people, it does make sense. But ultimately, it comes down to the numbers. And that's what we're about here on this channel is, can we make the numbers work? So this way, our business continues to thrive and grow, and we're just not another statistic and we're no longer a business. I will tell you, a lot of brick and mortar businesses do fail. And they do fail within the first few years of having that brick and mortar because of the costs, because of the expenses, and because of them not running the numbers and truly understanding the impact that it was going to have on their business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 3 different examples today that hopefully your business will fit into one of these 3 types, and you can start saying, is this the way that I should look at the numbers? Now, is this a perfect way of doing it? No, it is not. But is it going to get you 95% of the way there? Absolutely. Okay. You're going to want to do even more homework, but if you want to just save yourself a lot of time and money, this back of the napkin stuff that I'm going to teach you right now is going to be able to show how close you really are to being able to have a brick and mortar business. So rule number 1, a brick and mortar is going to cost you money. Okay. It's immediately going to be coming out of the current profits that you have because you haven't made any more money. And a lot of times what happens is people go, yeah, but I'm going to double my business. I'm going to triple my business. No, you think you're going to double your business. You think you're going to triple your business. You don't know that yet. Okay. You don't know what your profit's going to be. So if you're running a 20, 25%, maybe even a 30, 35% profit today, I guarantee you will not be running those same profit numbers once you go to a brick and mortar. Why are you not going to do that? Well, it's first and foremost, you now owe somebody monthly rent, okay? But there's also other costs associated with you doing that, depending upon the type of space. You see me filming this video in an office space that I rent. The only thing I'm out every single month is the monthly rent. However, I used to have an ice cream shop, right? So on that ice cream shop, not only did I have the rent, I also had the CAM charges, which are the common area maintenance charges, and those were added to that. Then I was also responsible for some of the maintenance of what happened. If the air conditioners went out, guess who footed that bill? I did. And when you have an ice cream shop, having a broken air conditioner will destroy your business because not only does it make the air hot, it then starts making your freezers and refrigerators fail. And I've had that happen many times. Okay. So that was a horrible thing until I had to get those air conditioners replaced. So you need to make sure, is that something you're going to cover or is someone else going to cover that? Speaking all those fridges and freezers that I had, what do you think my electric bill was? Yes, I was responsible for my electric bill. I had a $2,000 a month electric bill just because of those refrigerators and freezers. And never mind when we were 100 plus degrees, that went up. That was just like the baseline was 2,000. Sometimes people pay for water. Sometimes they pay for gas. It really just depends. So you can get all different types of space, from a simple office space with a monthly fee to one that you have a basic decent fee and you've got some electricity utility type things. And then there's the big ones that are usually in strip malls or larger locations that are going to have those additional charges, those additional maintenance fees, and everything else. But here's the thing. It doesn't always end there because it also depends upon what it is that you're going to do in that building. This one comes furnished. What if your office space doesn't come furnished? Is this going to be money out of your pocket to be able to furnish it? It might be as simple as a desk, a credenza, chairs, whatever. Or it could be something where you have to completely remodel and build out the space that you're renting, and that could cost you, thousands and thousands of dollars. And are you ready to pay for that out of your pocket? Or are you going to take out a loan? Taking out a loan just puts you even further in debt. So what if that loan ends up costing you $2,000 a month? So now you have this $5,000 a month fee, the utility fees, and you've got these fees for the loan. You got to be able to say, hey, what are those numbers? So the first thing you need to do is, what type of office space are you needing? The second thing you need to know is, what additional fees are you going to have to pay? What maintenance fees, common area fees? What are the utilities that you need to have? The next thing you need to do is ask yourself, how much money are you going to need to spend to make that space usable? Granted, usually the usable space is going to be one-time fees, but you still need to know what that is. You're just going to IKEA and getting a basic desk and some chairs, or are you having to put in a cash register and tables and chairs and everything else? Are you looking at a $10,000 bill or a $40,000, $50,000 bill? Are you going to have to bring construction in to go ahead and make that work? What does that look like? And by the way, if you plan to sell stuff, now you're going to have more inventory. Yes, maybe you've got some inventory at your home, but I bet you limit it because of the space that you have. Well, now that you have a brick and mortar, the odds are you're going to want to fill that up. So how much are you going to fill that up with? Another $1,000, $2,000, $50,000 worth of money? Everything comes at a cost. You need to, before you do anything, understand how much money is it going to cost you. Then what you want to do is go look at your business numbers currently and ask yourself, can I afford this place? So how are you going to do that? And this is where we're going to take a look at a couple of different things. The first thing we want to do is, let's start with a basic office space. Very typical for somebody that just runs a business where they just need to have a space to work out of because they don't have it at home. Or it could be that, their business has grown and they need a little bit more space to spread out. It could be a service-based business type that you just need a little bit more space. But either way, let's just say that you found a place and you've got a screaming deal and you can rent it for $1,000 a month. Okay, that's screaming. Not many places can do that. Okay, but let's just say you can get it. It could be $800 in some locations, and others it might be $1,500, $2,000 is the cheapest you can get it. It just depends. So you want to go out and get your number. But for our example, we're going to use $1,000. So if it's $1,000, and let's just say they cover everything, right? They cover the electricity, the Wi-Fi. You don't have to pay anything. All right. In which case, now you're looking at $12,000 a year. Now, when you're having that $12,000 a year, the next thing you have to understand is, what was your profit just last year? So let's just say you run a business and you do $100,000 and your profit is about 25%. So that means that of your $100,000 at your 25% profit, you made $25,000 last year. So you now know that if this year you're going to spend $12,000 just on that location, you're giving up half of your profit, right? $12,000 out of the 25, a little less than half. And you have to then say, am I going to do the same amount of business, or am I really going to grow my business? Because am I willing to walk away from $12,000 of my profit just to be able to have that location? So that's really the most basic of things. And for a lot of people, they can pull that one piece off. Yes, I understand it's tax deductible. And by the way, a lot of things are. But you have to keep in mind, you don't save dollar for dollar. So if you are in a 20% tax bracket, you're going to save 20% of whatever it is that you do. If you spend more, you're going to save a little bit more. It might be as high as 35%, but usually that's for high in running income based businesses, profitability. Check with your CPA, whoever does your taxes, and they can run you the exact numbers. But the one thing I want to make sure that you understand, just because it's deductible does not mean it's dollar for dollar. That is not the case. You're not getting back $12,000. You might save $1,000 on your taxes by the time it's all said and done of that money. So it's really not as big as what a lot of people think it is, or they're led to believe. So once again, you want to just do the basic numbers. So sometimes a basic office space without extra things is actually pretty easy to figure out. The first thing you have to do is ask yourself, are you currently making the profit that you need to pay for the space? Because if you're currently not making the profit to pay for the space, then you can't afford the space. I mean, that's a really easy one. Now, I do want to hit on one important thing before I go on to the next two, but it also relates to the first one that we talked about, and that is this. How are you paying yourself in the business today? Because if your business is running a $25,000 profit in our last example, I'm making the assumption you are already paying yourself as the employee, at least in your business, that you are taking a salary and that $25,000 is after you pay yourself. Because if you are not paying yourself in your business currently, you have no business even getting a brick and mortar. And the reason that you don't want a brick and mortar is because you're going to already give up your profits to go towards this brick and mortar. And if you're living off of the profits of your business and you haven't made sure you're paying yourself, the very first thing you're doing is giving away your money to live off of and the money you currently pay yourself to go get this building that you feel that you need to have. So it's really, really important that you make sure you're paying yourself first. So if you're making $100,000, you might be taking $40,000 out of that business as a salary for yourself for doing that business. And then after your other expenses, that's when all of a sudden you have the $25,000. That makes more sense. But if you've got a business that you're running out of your home currently and you're not paying yourself out of that business first and foremost as the employee, like we always preach, just remember that you're giving up your money and the profits of the business. So it's a dangerous combination. I can't tell you how many people have a brick and mortar and they're not getting paid. And I'm going to be honest with you. I ended up in that situation because of when the market crashed in 2008, every dime I had to go to paying this outrageous amount of money that I had on a brick and mortar because of the lease that was already in place. Not to mention, like I said, that electric bill that I had and all of the other stuff that I had to pay. So trust me, you do not want to be in a situation where you are not making money on top of everything else that you're doing. Now let's take a look at another example. So in this example, you're getting a little bit bigger of a space, and we're going to say that the rent is going to be $1,500, but you do have to pay utilities, and that's going to make it another $250 a month. So your monthly expenses is going to be $1,750 every single month. And if my math is correct, $1,750 times 12, yes, I did pre-write it down, is about $21,000 in the year. And now all of a sudden you've got this $21,000 that you have to pay out every single month. So how do you know if you can afford it? So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your business and you're going to say, what is my percentage that I take home in profit every single month? So we're not going to necessarily say these are the sales. What we're going to do is use the example of just knowing what the percentage is. In our particular example, our business has a 30% profitability. So to figure out, can they afford this, we then take the $21,000 we know it's going to cost them every single month and realize that they're going to be taking 30% of every dollar, right? First and foremost, they're going to have to pay for this stuff. So if we take the $21,000, divide it by 0.30 or 30%, either way, that comes out to, let me check the notes real quick so I say it correctly, that comes out to $70,000 in new sales they need to do just to break even. So let's just say this business is currently doing $300,000. That means they have to do $370,000 just to get back to where they were before the brick and mortar. So we're asking them to have this pretty big increase in sales from the brick and mortar just to get back to baseline. Okay, so wherever they were before in profit dollars, they now have to go 300,000 to 370 just to break even. So $70,000 is the first $70,000 is just going to pay for this brick and mortar. Hopefully that is making sense. And that's kind of how you want to be looking at this. What you want to be able to say is, I need to do X amount of sales, in new sales, if you will, in order to justify me having this brick and mortar business. So in this particular case, they figured out their monthly bill is going to be $21,000. They divide it by what their current profit margin is, which was 30%, and then they were able to figure out it's $70,000. Because remember, once they open the new business, that $70,000 is going to drop how much profitability they have, and more than likely, their business's profit is not going to be 30%. It's probably going to look more like 21% because they have this additional money going out until they can increase those sales to offset the money that it is that they are having to spend. Hopefully that makes some sense. So that's why I always teach people the quick and dirty method to say, are you going to get $70,000 more out of your business to be able to justify it? So just take whatever your costs are, and I want you to divide it by the current percentage of your profitability, and that is going to be able to figure it out. So in our case, it was 21,000 divided by 0.30. Told us $70,000. Now let's take a look at another example. And this one, we're going to go with a full-on fledged brick and mortar business that you're running. Okay, this is one that you also have to staff. And earlier, I didn't even mention that piece, that when you have to staff a building, remember you're putting a register in, it's having open. Now you have to make sure you have the payroll to be able to pay for the people that are in there. Your costs go through the roof the minute you have a full-fledged brick and mortar business. And a lot of times when people go, they don't look at the fact that they have to build it out. They don't look at the fact they have to put the inventory in it. They don't look at the fact that they have to pay people to be in it. And you really need at least 4 people, unless you plan to be there from morning to night and it only needs one person to be there. If you have to have other employees, that's additional money that you're having to spend. And your payroll could be an additional $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, depending upon where you currently are today. So make sure when you're looking at your total numbers that you're keeping that in mind for this other type of brick and mortar. But for our example, let's just say that they find a place that they can get for $3,000, right? But they also have these things called common area. And in a common area, that means they're adding additional money on top of it, because that's money that you have to pay as your portion of the rest of the strip mall or your section or whatever it is. In my particular case, it was a big strip area, but there were like 5 buildings in it. So the 5 of us had to pay for any other money that was due to maintain that particular section. Now, on top of that, then you have to ask yourself, what are your utilities? Are your utilities $1,000, $2,000, $3,000? Depends upon the type of business that you have. So let's just say that by the time you have the maintenance, the brick and mortar, you just look at everything that you have to pay, it's like $5,000 now is what you have to have set aside in order for you to be able to do that business. Now, once again, I'm not counting the employees. I'm not counting the utilities. I'm not counting all the other money that you have to have. So at $5,000, that's $60,000 a year that you're going to have just for the building of the brick and mortar. And depending upon your profitability, you now have to figure out how much more you have to do in sales. So let's say that your profitability currently is 20%. We would take the $60,000 that you now have for your new rent and cam charges and all that good stuff, $60,000 divided by 0.20, 20%, okay? That's going to come out to $300,000 in new sales that you need to do to be able to afford that brick and mortar business. $300,000 onto your sales just to break even. That's crazy. That is an absolute crazy number. And a lot of people never run those numbers. And is that a high number? Depends upon where you're at. For some people, it might be. But what if it was $200,000? That's crazy. $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. That's a lot of sales. So if you're currently already up there, then you might be able to make those numbers work. But I really want you to, I'm not trying to be a dream killer. I promise you, I don't want you to fail. I don't want your business to fail. But I really need you to be realistic about what your true profit is. Because I guarantee you, if you go into this brick and mortar at 20%, you're not going to have 20% when it's all said and done. That's probably going to drop down to 10%. Now, based off of the number of sales, the sales dollars might work for you. But can you imagine if you're not paying yourself in your business either, and then you take on this type of thing? You're going to be working for free. You're going to find out that you are not making a single dime. And you're going to, by the way, you're going to stop having employees and you're going to work every single day yourself because you can't afford the payroll. I've been there. I understand that. When the crap hits the fan, an owner's got to do what an owner's got to do. And it doesn't matter how well you run the business. I can tell you, when I ran my ice cream shop, that thing was running so lean and mean and so good. And I can guarantee you, you know what? The head people of the franchise came to try to see if there was anything they could do. And they're like, man, you're running a great business. Yeah, I know. I can't afford the building. The building was eating my business alive because the other franchisee down the street who had the same type of business doing the same type of sales, guess what? They were paying $1,000. I had $5,000. They had $1,000. No wonder why they were making more money. It's the building a lot of times. So I'm not telling you not to have a brick and mortar. I'm telling you to run the numbers. I'm telling you to find out, does it work with your current business? Can you make this happen? Can you afford it? Or are you going to be closing those doors in 1 to 2 to 3 years? I have coached some businesses that have brick and mortars, and it breaks my heart because I see the owners going through exactly what I did, and they just don't want to hear it because you don't want to hear your dream dying. You know what? I was dumb. I kept mine open for way too long because every business in my town was closing. And I didn't want the local ice cream shop to close. And I paid the price for doing that. I stayed doing it way longer than I ever should have. But I will tell you, would I do another one? Possibly. Could I help somebody open an ice cream shop that isn't a name brand? I mean, don't even get me going on franchises and the fees and that eating part of it up. But I will tell you, you have to do it differently. You have to make sure you can afford it. At the end of the day, a brick and mortar can be wonderful for your business, but it also can destroy your business. So before you get rushed into doing a brick and mortar business, run the numbers. Make sure you're paying yourself correctly. Make sure you go into it with your eyes wide open as far as how much money you have to put in to get this business ready to be in this brick and mortar. How much is it going to cost you? Where's that money going to come from? Because once again, if we go even to these examples, if you get one of those bigger buildings that are like $4,000 or $5,000, the odds are you're going to have to pay $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 to get it going. And now you've got this $2,000, $3,000 loan on top of it. So you could actually, instead of having $60,000 a year that you're going to have to pay out, it could be with the loan attached to it, $100,000. Now what does that number look like? It's not $300,000. Now it's $500,000 you have to do just to be able to break even. I'm telling you, folks, brick and mortar is not always what we think it's going to be. I want you to be successful. I want you to make lots of money, but I really need you to go into this with your eyes wide open. Run the numbers and make sure you're doing it correctly, okay? That's the most important thing that I can tell you. Take one of the 3 examples that we've done today, and I promise you it's going to help you out. At least back of the napkin kind of math, really simple stuff that we did today. You can do it with your phone's calculator. Just take the amount of money that it's going to cost you a year, divide it by the percentage of your profit, and that'll give you an example of how much you need to do in new sales just to break even. And if you cannot or do not think you're going to do that, then you need to stop right there before you move forward because it's going to cost you money. Okay? So step 1, write down every single dime that you think you're going to have to pay, whether it's monthly to get the place ready and everything else. That's step 1. 2, take your current profitability, divide it into the yearly number or the total cost it's going to cost you to do it, and ask yourself, will that work? And then ask yourself, what's my plan to get all those sales I need to do? Because if you need to do $60,000 more in sales, $100,000, $500,000 in sales, you got to have a plan for those sales and how you're going to get it. Because just because you go into a brick and mortar, it doesn't mean that they're going to show up. Because don't even get me started on location. It's got to be in the right location, right? I had an ice cream shop that was smack in the middle of town. You couldn't miss it. And I can't tell you how many people didn't even realize we were there. That's all I heard. And I'm thinking, how can you not? It's the number 1 light in the entire city. And you would stare at it. How did you not know it was there? Don't assume they'll know it's there. I promise you it's not going to work that way. All right, I've been going on and on, but hopefully you got something out of this video. Put some notes and comments on the bottom about your experience having a brick and mortar or your questions or whatever the case may be, because I'm sure other people out there have some great, wonderful experiences they wish they would have known when they had a brick and mortar, and I'd love for them to be able to share them here so we can help a lot of different people out making the decision, should they have a brick and mortar business or should they not? With that, I'll see you on the next video. Make sure you hit subscribe. Okay, hit that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss out on how to run a more profitable business. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.